The cult I almost joined, Young Living Essential Oils. I wonder what... Oh, hey, how's it going? I was just watching a YouTube video with Drew from the Genetically Modified Skeptic YouTube channel, and he was talking about how, he almost joined, but he actually joined. But anyways, let's get into his video today, and I'm going to do a review as it's playing as well to kind of get the other side of the coin so you can kind of get more of a balanced perspective, because one of the patterns I notice in a lot of these types of videos is they're very one-sided, and so it's so important that we come to accurate conclusions by understanding the pros and the cons from both sides so we can come to an accurate conclusion again. So make sure to watch this video all the way until the end so you can learn all of the information that's presented from him as well as myself. And without further ado, let's get into today's video.
Mattel's new baby secret. She whispers, just to you.
How can you take control of your life and live the way you've always wanted? The answer lies in essential oils.
I'm mad that the baby was thrown against the wall and an old voiceover commercial from Mattel was used with the Young Living video. But okay, let's see what he's got to say.
Okay, here it is, finally, the story of my involvement with the multi-level marketing company Young Living Essential Oils. I've mentioned Young Living so many times on my channel. I mean, I have this display for a reason, but I've never told the whole story of my past involvement or how I came to realize that it's a cult.
Uh-oh, it's about to get real, y'all. Before we get started, I do want to define what a cult is, just so we're all on the same page. So basically, a lot of times it's referred to like a religion regarded as unorthodox or spurious. These are some Merriam-Webster definitions: a great devotion to a person, idea, object, movement, or work, which would technically be family, friends, wife, husband, your car, house. So almost anything could be defined as a cult. But let's see what he has to say, because I think he's more using it more as a derogatory or negative term. Okay, but let's go here.
It's about time I tell that story and discuss why Young Living isn't just a business. I think it was 2013, my sophomore year of college, that I first started hearing about essential oils. Some family members of mine got involved with Young Living and started telling family friends about what the oils could do. I lived on campus away from home, so I only occasionally heard about oils for a while. Honestly, I didn't pay much attention to the situation, and I knew nothing about oils or Young Living for a while after my family got involved. Eventually, some family members began expressing to me how excited they were about starting a business selling the oils. Apparently, they heard a lot of people made really good money selling them.
And little did they know that you would do a YouTube video as well as multiple other YouTube videos and reach hundreds of thousands of people with this message. Man, if they only knew.
Also started telling me about what the oils could do. Everything sounded great to me at the time. I was excited for them and believed that the oils could do all those things because I trusted my family's judgment. Then they told me that I could make money selling the oils too. I was in college and didn't want that as a job at the time, especially because the oils were too expensive for college students to buy off me.
Well, number one, expensive is a mindset, because if you look at what you spend for Starbucks, eating out, restaurants, vacations, cell phone, clothes, jewelry, anyone could say something is too expensive because they don't value something. And if you don't value something, it means that the benefits don't outweigh the costs, basically. So college students spend lots of money on tuition and books and a lot of stuff. I went to college, I went to Ohio State, and it's a lot of money. So literally tens and tens of $1,000s on tuition and books and all that stuff, and room and board and food, and don't get me started. So my point is expensive is a mindset, and it's based on what you value, and value is based on the benefit cost analysis that happens.
My family was cool with that though, and made a deal with me that I was totally on board with for a while. They would build their Young Living business, and while I was still in college, I would learn about the oils and prepare myself to become a distributor. Upon graduating, I would go into the family business, at least part-time, but preferably full-time, since I'd likely be making amazing money right out of the gate, given my family's mentorship.
Sounds like expectations weren't aligned with reality with regards to, number one, an income disclosure statement from the company to see what percent of people make what percent of money, as well as understanding what Eric Worre talks a lot about is a business opportunity should not be presented unless, number one, you know the person really well, but number two, the person that you're presenting the business opportunity to has to be looking for a business opportunity, and so that means they're open to diversifying their income. He just said that he was a college student that didn't have a lot of money at the time, and he felt that his friends or other people may not have the money either to purchase it. Money is a factor in the purchasing decision process, but it's not the only factor, right? Needs, goals, assessing for fit, and mostly knowing, liking, and trusting the person, product, or company is going to be most important, because if you want something bad enough, it doesn't matter how much cost it is. You'll save up for it, you'll beg, borrow, and some people may even steal to get money in order to pay for something that they really, really, really want. And they typically only want something is because they have a need or a desire, or they see that the benefits outweigh the costs. And so I just want to make sure that's very clear, because he's even saying that he didn't want to do it. He was almost like the same verbiage that Kay Nichols kind of mention, which is more of like I was sucked into it type of verbiage, but not fully. But at the same time, it does take consumer discernment, meaning the ability to recognize the truth from lies or the truth from hearsay or half-truths in order to make an educated decision. And so that means, being able to communicate, hey, I'm not looking for a business opportunity, or hey, I know that we're family, but let me just focus on being a customer and using the products right now at a discount. Being able to communicate that, and family members or whoever being able to respect that, I think is very key, but it goes both ways, is my point.
The first step in this process was to begin attending classes about essential oils, which my family began teaching. For a few classes, everything seemed great. New attendees always bought the oils at classes, and I was totally on board with it all. After a while, though, I began hearing more impressive claims about Young Living and essential oils in general. Gary Young, the founder of Young Living, said that he healed from crippling paralysis using only essential oils. The government was said to be covering up cures for major diseases so they could make money, and that's why essential oils were only classified as supplements rather than medicine.
So the key thing to remember with the oils, and this is what I tell everybody that is a customer of mine or business builder or just in general, your body heals itself when it gets what it needs. That means proper diet, nutrition, vitamins, minerals, trace minerals. Supplements can help fill in gaps from what you don't get from your food because of the standard American diet of hamburger, hot dog, pizza, french fries, soda, the list goes on, Oreos and, whatever processed foods. And so the point is your body does all of the healing when your body gets what it needs. And specifically the oils as it relates to all that. Number one, I'm not in control of what other distributors, wellness advocates for whatever network marketing companies say about whatever claim or benefit they are proposing. What I am focused on is being compliant with regards to the FDA and what doTERRA has set out, because that's the company that I'm with, but also Young Living has standards with regards to claims being made. And when people make exaggerated claims or claims that aren't compliant with the FDA, then either they're not trained or they're not aware that they're saying something that is, leading to more of a drug claim or implying a drug claim as well. It is very tricky territory because there's a lot of words that imply or directly are a drug claim. So you have to look at the verbiage, which I'll have a link in the description below so you can kind of learn more about the approved claims list. And so that's going to be important to note for Young Living as well as doTERRA and any other company for that matter, to make sure you're compliant with the FDA. But the point I'm trying to make is that punishing others, whether it be verbally or judgmentally, because they don't have the right skills, knowledge, or awareness about what drug claims they're making or what approved claims they're making, should not reflect on the actual company. Now, Gary Young, he was the CEO, and he stepped down, and then unfortunately he passed away, so we're sorry to hear about that. But at the same time, people are going to make claims that aren't approved by the FDA. But that doesn't take away from the fact that essential oils can help people, because they do have health benefits and uses, and it's important to understand those properly and make approved claims. That is the main purpose of an approved claims list. And so when people say like him, and he's done another video I've done a review on and done videos on as well, but the point I'm trying to make is there's an approved claims list and then there's a drug claims list. Essential oils are supplements, not drugs, and so therefore approved claims should be used whenever in public and within reasonability and understanding that the body heals itself when the body gets what it needs. And the essential oils enhance your experience and quality of life as you are dealing with your health. Okay, so those are very clear distinctions that should be made always.
Also, explanations of what the oils could do began involving terms like frequency and detox, which I could never get anyone to actually define for me. I just got...
Frequency depends on what you're going through, and so it's not a one size fits all. And then with regards to, he said frequency and detox. So detox means, we breathe in a lot of toxicity or toxic things in the air, car muffler fumes or exhaust. You've got BPA in plastics, which is an endocrine or hormone disruptor. We've got herbicides and pesticides sprayed on foods and vegetables, and all types of stuff in genetically modified foods. And I mean, the list can go on and on and on with the amount of toxic stuff that's in the food and the air and the water. And there's chloride and chlorine in water. I mean, the drinking water and tap water. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. All those have an effect on the body and the mind, and that it's a negative effect over time, basically, or it can be immediately. And so it's important to detox, meaning basically pull those toxic synthetic chemicals outside of the cells and to be able to rid them from the body so that you can have more of a pure state. Not fully pure, but as much as you can, because you're constantly breathing in air and introducing other things into the body. But it's part of the detox process, is trying to live a better life or a higher quality of life. So that's what that means. See, it sounds like he didn't have the proper education, training, or mentorship, and he was more pushed to business opportunity, which is more of a traditional network marketing style or approach. And recruit and sell and business opportunity versus an authentic network marketing approach is focusing on sharing, teaching, and leading with powerful products instead. There's a huge difference between those two, and those don't get distinguished enough.
Weirded out upon hearing all that. A few months and multiple classes had gone by, and I hadn't looked into any of the information I was taught myself. I had just trusted my family.
That was the first mistake. You trust, but you verify. Always. Whether you're watching me on YouTube, whether you're watching the Genetically Modified Skeptic right in front of you, whatever it is, family members, I tell them that all the time. And that goes for business partners and whoever else I'm with. It's like, I trust you, but I need to verify for myself. And if your information is accurate, then you have nothing to worry about. But if it's not accurate, or could be more accurate, or if there's a better solution, or whatever it is, then I'm going to find it and, maybe give you some constructive feedback, or you can give me constructive feedback, and let's try to be a better versions of ourselves. Let's try to work on a better solution. And better could mean, less time, less money, more of a win-win, a better feeling or result at the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, there's lots of ways you can define better, but the point is it's better, and it's only that because I trusted what you said, if you're in my inner circle, or if it's somebody that I do trust. But I will verify certain things if I get a little spidey senses tingling off, like maybe that's a claim that needs to be verified, and I'll just be open and transparent about that. It's like, yeah, that makes sense, but let's look at some more information, because it sounds like you're maybe speculating a little bit more on this area. Or do you know where you got your information from? Do you know if they told you everything? Do you know who's funding what they told you? Like, and let's go down that rabbit hole, because I want to speak the truth and I want to seek understanding, and that's part of being a reasonable person. The unreasonable person just wants to be right and win, and just blame and shame people for problems that they stage dramas about, and that's not me. So that's the reason why I focus so much on trying to find fact-based information that's accurate from both sides of the coin, not just one.
So I decided to check things out on my own. By this time, my college classes had taught me how to actually recognize, read, and write scientific research articles, and I checked out any sources which Young Living or its distributors cited to back up their claims. None of it was even close to scholarly.
Well, if you want to find information on essential oils, the best thing to do is just go to Google and then type in PubMed essential oils. You will find more scholarly, fact-based information on there from reputable sources than you have time to even view. And so I don't know if he, like in his previous videos that I've watched, I haven't seen him mention anything about that, and so that might have been left out because he wasn't aware of that. But I'm making you aware of that. If you already know about it, great, awesome. If you don't, boom, you have a third-party, fact-based information source that is not only scholarly but also reputable when it comes to essential oil effectiveness. So that is going to be absolutely key. Again, Google PubMed essential oils. There you go.
I then hunted for evidence within reputable literature for the oil's efficacy, and still nothing.
PubMed, essential oils, Google. There you go.
The things I was taught in classes about oils simply had no proof behind them. I
PubMed, Google, essential oils. Boom again.
just sat on this realization for a while, not telling my family about it. It was all pretty disappointing. Soon, though, I looked into the history of the company, and what I found left me shocked and actually worried about my family. The founder of Young Living, Gary Young, famously claims to have been paralyzed by a logging accident in his 20s. Apparently, his doctor told him he'd never walk again. Then, Young says he discovered essential oils and they healed him entirely. The medical records of his accident, though, are nowhere to be found. After his incident, Young started the Golden Six Health Club in Washington state. In 1982, although lacking any training, Young attempted to deliver his wife's baby in a whirlpool at the club. This is where things start to go bad.
So the information that he is presenting is what I have covered in my Young Living playlist. And you can tell, because there's a lot of information on Young Living and doTERRA, and it's important to mention doTERRA because they're related in the sense of, their history. But my point I'm trying to make is that that playlist that I'm going to include in the link in the description below this video, of my video, will have the lawsuit information between Young Living and doTERRA, as well as Young Living in their information and what they've been through in their history, as well as Gary Young as well. If you haven't already watched those on my channel, then I highly recommend you watch those to kind of, you can trust what he's saying, you can not trust what he's saying. You can trust what I'm saying, you can not trust what I'm saying. But the thing I'm trying to get to is that it's important to verify what we're saying, and the only way you can do that is look at what's presented, what he's saying, what I'm saying, and the fact-based sources that I pulled them from, so you can come to your own conclusion. And my goal is to help people come to an accurate conclusion that looks at both sides, not just one side, not just the pros of one side that supports you, and not just the cons of the other side that doesn't support you, right? We should look at pros and cons of both sides of the arguments, which is a four-way street if you think about it, right? Pros and cons of the for side, pros and cons of the against side. There you go. And why? So we can come to accurate conclusions. There's so much misinformation, half-truths, hearsay, and it's crazy. But obviously you know where he stands. He's against Young Living. I'm not against Young Living. I am more neutral, I would say, but I am for doTERRA. And so I am very clear and transparent about my position, because people are like, what side are you on? Are you hiding it, Lance? And I'm like, no, I'm clear. If you ask, or I'll tell. It goes both ways on that end too. But here we go. Let's see what he has to say still.
During the delivery, he held his baby underwater for nearly an hour, killing her. The case was ruled an accident, but the coroner involved said that the baby likely would have lived if it were delivered conventionally. Then, in 1983, a federal agent went undercover to investigate Young's services. When Young offered the agent prenatal care and treatment for her mother's cancer, all while falsely claiming to have graduated from the American Institute of Physioregenerology, he was arrested for practicing medicine with...
I feel like he watched my video and just looked at all the sources and then made his own video. It's cool if he did or didn't, because he's presenting, fact-based information. But it's interesting that he's covering this in a different way, in a different format. Even the visuals are kind of cool. I definitely applaud his, video editing skills, is what I'm trying to say. But I will say that yeah, he's uncovering what I have been called many times. He's uncovering dirt, right? He's yeah, or he's slinging dirt, or whatever you want to call it. And for me, my response every time to that is, I'm just presenting fact-based information that is publicly available from a third party. So either you're shooting the messenger because you got triggered, or you're looking at the facts more objectively so you can come to an accurate conclusion about the company, regardless of your emotional or financial or chronological or time investment in that company. We have to suspend our disbelief for just one moment so we can look at the information presented in front of us.
Without a license. After pleading guilty and serving a year of probation, he started a cancer clinic in Mexico where he treated patients with Laetrile. That's illegal in the US because it's known to produce cyanide in the body and injure or kill people, and it doesn't even cure cancer. Later, he started a clinic...
See, for that claim, you would need to verify that with more fact-based sources from both sides as well. So if you have information that says it helps and you have information that says it doesn't help, we need to look at two things. This is what my mentor taught me, who taught at Brigham Young University. She used to be a professor. But is you have to look at when people do give you sources, are they presenting you, number one, with all the information? And who is funding that particular study, because studies are not cheap. They can cost $10,000 or more. I know, which is a lot of reasons why companies pay for studies, but companies kind of do that so that they're not present. It's not visibly shown that they're the main sponsor of that study, but they do have a certain conclusion that needs to be come to, because that conclusion, especially if it comes from a Harvard or a college, makes it look very credible with regards to, like, for example, wine can help improve your heart circulation. Okay, but what about the other 9 things that wine may do but aren't good, or 8 things or 5 things or 4 things or 2 things, whatever it is? The point is we don't know those things because they were not presented in their entirety, or not presented in such a way that looks at all of the information that that study came to. Because a lot of times it's, I want a study to come to a conclusion, make sure that study comes to that conclusion, and here's the money for it. Boom, thanks Harvard, thanks college for that. Now we get a little credibility boost, and we can refer to that every time we want to make profits and sales for whatever business it is. So it's important to be aware of that, very aware of that.
In California, claiming to be a physician. That led to his arrest in 1988 for, and I hope you're ready for this, deceptive advertising, selling unapproved medical devices and unapproved drugs, manufacturing medical devices and drugs without a license, advertising drugs and devices to cure cancer, and practicing medicine without a license. After serving even further for his crimes, Gary Young finally founded Young Living Essential Oils, where he touted his expertise as a doctor of naturopathy with a master's in nutrition. The problem was, even Young admitted to having gotten these degrees from Bernardine University, a known mail-order diploma mill with no authorization to grant degrees. His only real degree comes from his high school in Idaho. Young Living knowingly utilizes a business model which has been proven to be riskier for employees than gambling, as I've said before on my channel.
Where's the fact-based information to support that if he's referring to multi-level marketing? If you look at an income disclosure statement for an MLM company, you also need to look at the income disclosure statement for corporations, mom and pop shops, franchises, and any other business that requires a performance-based business model, word-of-mouth business model, or something where you're earning some type of money from a product or service. And you also have to look at prerequisites for positions. In order to join a network marketing company, you just have to be 18 or older and make a certain amount with regards to your purchases to qualify for income. It varies by company. For Young Living, it's a 100-point value. But for a corporate position, typically you have to almost in every case now, you have to have a college degree, and that costs what, $30,000-$40,000 if you have no scholarships or anything like that. So that's a prereq just to get the job, and then it's going to take 3 to 10, sometimes even 20 years to pay off their student loan debt, which is why it's over $1 trillion in the US. And so my point I'm trying to make is, if we're not looking at all the type of business models objectively and from a fact-based standpoint, because it's easy to attack a network marketing company because they have an income disclosure statement, but it's not so easy to look at another type of company, corporation, franchise, mom and pops, because they may not produce all the income disclosure statements that are publicly available every single year. That's my point.
According to a study made by Dr. John M. Taylor, which was made publicly available by the FTC, 99.6% of MLM recruits lose money. That's actually worse than classic no-product pyramid schemes, and even less lucrative than literally playing roulette in Vegas. And yet, Young Living continues to utilize this incredibly manipulative...
Okay, so he did provide some information. Now we need to look at, is that information telling you everything, and who's funding it as well? Because if they have an anti-MLM predisposition, then obviously they're going to want to show how MLMs are less profitable or worse business opportunity than the other ways that people do business. But they also don't factor in the fact that many college students who are paying for college may have a side or part-time job to help pay down student loans or pay for their food or pay for their room and board, similar to how people in network marketing companies may have a full-time job, a part-time job, multiple part-time jobs as they're earning income with a network marketing business that they believe in because they may have found a person, product, and company that they believe in or know, like, and trust. And so these are all elements that anti-MLM person doesn't want to hear, because it's like, oh, so now I have to take that MLM out of the box of it's crappy, it's a pyramid scheme, it's an MLM scam, and I actually have to take it out of the box and actually look at it and do research and actually turn it all the way around and move it around. And no, it's just so much easier to put it in a box of pyramid scheme and MLM scam, and 99% of people lose money and only 1% or less make money. Like, it's so much easier just to do that. Let's just do that. And I'm just like, well, that would be putting it in a box and not being fully objective, which would mean you're going to come to inaccurate conclusions, because there's a lot of different situations that can occur.
And unethical structure. The company is also known for getting in legal trouble for directly claiming or having its distributors claim that its oils treat or cure disease. Young Living earned an FDA warning letter in 2014, for instance. They're not allowed to make any of those claims.
Yes, distributors for Young Living or any supplement company are not allowed to make drug claims. And so what it really comes down to is the accountability that is in place for distributors to make sure they don't do that. The problem is that when you have millions upon millions of anywhere from baby builders all the way up to, senior leadership that have varying degrees of memorization of approved claims lists that don't violate an FDA claims list for drugs, it becomes very difficult because of the sheer number of people making claims and the sheer nuances and little slight differences in verbiage that either imply a drug claim, which is not allowed, or a direct claim of drugs, which is not allowed either. And it's hard to manage because a lot of it's done on social media, and it's really hard to find every single person unless you just crack down and say no social media, which then would cause a lot of people to lose business and lose a lot of the branding that goes on. And so the best solution is just to look at the approved claims lists, whether you just started with a company as a customer or a distributor, or you've been in the game for 10, 20 years or 30 years or whatever, how many years, it doesn't matter. You look at that approved claims list and you memorize that thing. I know it sounds kind of an extreme approach, but I had to memorize that thing to the point where any word that was not FDA compliant, I have to memorize and have an alternative for that is FDA compliant, which means it's not a drug claim and it's a function claim, right? So it supports a body system, right? So it does something specifically that helps you, but it's more quality of life focused, not a drug claim. So that takes homework, research, and a lot of people either aren't aware of that or they don't care to do that. But that doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, that company deserves to go down or whatever. It's like, hold on. There's a lot more to this, okay? So I think, he's not factoring that part in.
Because there's no scientific proof that their oils can cure any disease at all. After discovering all of this...
Well, first of all, that shouldn't be anybody's claim, no matter how effective the essential oils are, because number one, this is my keep it real moment, and that's because even if you use the oil and it helps you, I don't know what you're eating, what your sleeping habits are, what your stress levels are, what you're drinking, what you're smoking. I don't know your whole diet and lifestyle. Some people are like, why eat healthy and I don't drink or smoke, Lance? But it's just like, okay, what about your stress levels? What about your sleeping habits? What about processed foods? What about what percent of meat versus plant-based are you eating? What about, processed versus non-processed or minimally processed? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I just, I eat healthy, just it's like, no, like if I don't know that through a food journal that you've well documented, I cannot make with any form of confidence that it actually was one specific thing that helped you overcome something. Like, I would have to know a tremendous amount of stuff, and that was what goes into a lot of studies where they have to basically have control groups and look at specific things and isolate if it really was that one thing that helped you with that thing, or was it a placebo effect, or was it a combination of things? If it was a combination of things, what was the main thing that helped you? There's so much stuff that's why, whether it's public or even in private conversations, I'm like, it could, great that product or essential oil or supplement or food or drink or whatever it is helped you. I'm so happy. Whether it was placebo effect, a combination of things, one thing, I'm just glad it helped you. But here's the thing, because I don't know all of what you're doing, I don't think I can make any guarantee that this is going to do something or not. I can tell you how it's helped most other people, but I cannot give any guarantees. And that is the honest truth about, and I believe in the products, right? I believe in the essential oils. I believe in supplements that are high quality, but I will not make any guarantees because of all those factors I just previously mentioned.
I never wanted anything to do with the company again. I've confronted distributors with this information, including some of my family members.
You didn't confront me, because if you did, I would have kept it 100 with you, and I would have just told you everything you've already heard so far in this video. So, okay, let's continue though.
But they've just dismissed it all reflexively.
I don't dismiss, I address. And even some people call me out on my videos because they're like, man, you are just, every time that person is saying something, this is what the K Nichols videos, you are just interrupting them, or you're just like, just picking away at their arguments. It's like, well, that's because people need to know the rebuttal of the other side's position. If you just hear one side, you'll be like, yep, Young Living's a pyramid scheme, MLM scam, and everyone makes non-compliant drug claims all the time, and yeah, they should be shut down. It's just like, well, first of all, that's only one side of the story, and there is some truth in there, whether it's a kernel size or a watermelon size, form of truth, but we need to find out the other side, peoples. And yeah, a lot of times people just don't want to like keep it real with you or tell you the truth because either they don't know or they don't care, and they have, they got, nobody wants to explain themselves. Like when I was growing up, I asked my mom, why, mom, why this, why that, and she'd be like, my mom's Korean, so she'd be like, stop asking me why, just like, just do it because I said so. And I'm like, all right. I mean, when you're a kid and you just need to do what your parents say, sometimes that makes sense. But like when you're trying to have an intelligent conversation with somebody because you genuinely have questions, like because you're an adult and they're adult, that's different, right? You're seeking understanding, they're getting defensive or shutting down, and you're just left in, on your own devices. Like, that's not cool. Like, you should have an answer of, I don't know, let me go find out, and actually let me not just go find out, but let me get back to you. And not let me just get back to you, but let me get back to you in a timely manner, right? Like when I worked for PepsiCo, that was something that they said, like, you build trust with people when you don't just tell them, I don't know, because that shows, that you don't know everything, which is cool. You don't BS, but you don't just say, I don't know. You say, let me get back with you. But you don't just say, let me get back with you. You actually do get back with them. But you don't just get back with them. You get back with them in a timely manner. When you do all that, that builds trust. Okay? That's all. And I think that's not factored in or looked at a lot either. But all right, here we go.
Many distributors' responses to criticism of the company is actually vitriolic and reeks of brainwashed indoctrination. It always seemed cultish to me. Until recently, though, I never actually considered Young Living a cult, but now I definitely do. Last year, I discovered Telltale on YouTube, who is a former cult member as an ex-Jehovah's Witness. He consistently discusses what makes a group a cult, and his channel introduced me to the work of psychologist and cult expert Stephen Hassan, among other scholarly work on cult psychology. As I've explained on my channel before, Hassan developed a tool, the BITE model, to describe and list cult manipulation tactics and help identify cults in the real world. Young Living fits the BITE model to a frightening degree.
How, here, let me just provide some more perspective. You use that little 4-quadrant model on your mom, on your dad, on your boss, on your direct reports, on your peers, your coworkers, your spouse, your brother, your sister, your grandparents. I bet you it's going to be pretty scary too, right? And so just because something is a cult according to a 4-quadrant definition doesn't mean you can't, navigate through something, right? My point is, a lot of things could be quote unquote a cult by definition, but it's up to the individual to have discernment, right? To be able to recognize truth from lies, but then also be an educated consumer and look for the truth from both sides of things and not just slam the other side because it doesn't agree with you or you got, shut down or had a bad experience with the person. And then I get it. If you had a bad experience with your upline or mentor because they couldn't answer your questions and they wanted to just sell you the business opportunity, that's your experience, and therefore that's a negative one, and it burned or implanted a very negative thought process in your mind to the point where now you're making YouTube videos getting hundreds of thousands of views and calling yourself the genetically modified skeptic. I get it, but I don't think the baby should be thrown out with the bathwater is my point. And I think that just because you can't find the information doesn't mean it's not available. And just because you find it, you have to look past your own predisposition of being anti-MLM and try to look at the other side a little bit more objectively. And when I say that, I mean even amount of pros and cons for the for side, and even amount of pros and cons for the against argument or side as well. That's going to be key. And if you can't do that, then that's just going to show that you have less objectivity, which means less accurate conclusion.
It spreads false information, exploits people financially, fosters hyper-loyal, self-sacrificial followings, etc. Previously on my channel,
Like I said, how's that different from family, work environments? I mean, your dog, your cat, I mean, anything can be considered a cult according to that, his just brief definition, or looking at a quadrant. And so, but you may be like, Lance, we're not spending money and following a dog. All hail the dog. Well, you do spend money on veterinarian bills and food, and you do spend a lot of time with it. I mean, it's basically the cult definition, the simplistic one, is basically one where you, like I said before, I already mentioned it, but it's a great devotion to a person, idea, object, movement, or work. So, almost to like an obsessive quality to it, or obsession. That can be done about anything. Like, that means anything could be a cult according to that definition. And if you use this 4-quadrant one, again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but again, we're not looking at all the sides of the coin here, or both sides of the coin.
I've gone through every manipulation tactic on the BITE model and discussed how multi-level marketing companies utilize most of them. Here, though, I thought it'd be great to have Telltale himself discuss a few of Young Living's most heavily used tactics, which cement its cult classification.
So, I talked about Young Living on my own channel a while back, and at the end, my conclusion was that I hadn't yet been convinced of its status as a cult. Since GM was heavily involved in this, we've talked about it, and I've picked out a few key points that Young Living meets on the BITE model. So let's take a look at a few. We'll start with some markers from behavior control. Financial exploitation. I feel comfortable saying that this is one of the biggest issues you find with the group. You find people commonly blowing through their entire life savings in no time to reach higher and higher goals, buying products that don't benefit them in any way.
Well, first of all, you are in choice of what you purchase. Unless somebody has a gun to your head and it's a life or death situation, nobody's forcing you to open up your wallet or purse and type in the credit card number to make a purchase online. Nobody's forcing you to do that. Some could say, well, you're indoctrinated or brainwashed to do that. Well, again, that's where the discernment comes in. You have to take some responsibility and personal accountability for your choosing skills of your person, products, and company. So that has to be present. On top of, he said there's no benefit. Well, there is a benefit if you receive some type of quality of life improvement or enhancement compared to what you were using before, which could have been more traditional, synthetic, or toxic in most cases. And I know that's the case for me. And so there's a personal responsibility element, there's a personal accountability element, there's a discernment element, there's an education element. There's a lot to this, and to just make his claims without stating that, I think is absolutely key. And to say to go into debt to purchase all this, if you purchase from your debit card or you save up for it, you don't have to go into debt. And so what I'm trying to do is provide a reasonable response or a rebuttal to what I see as less objective, inaccurate conclusions made by these two individuals now. And there always is another side, and they're not presenting that side very accurately at all.
Next thing they know, they're stuck with a bunch of useless junk that they believe has almost supernatural abilities to cure diseases. Stephen Hassan actually updated the BITE model fairly recently. He added a few new markers. Here's one he added.
Here's one that you need to add, and same with Genetically Modified Skeptic, which is being more objective. How about that? And looking at fact-based information from both sides of the coin. That's what's needed. So, and that requires empathy. And empathy really only comes when you're given constructive feedback from another party and you value self-awareness as well as seeking understanding and appreciating the truth. And the truth means that you have information that really can set you free, but more importantly, it's information that is following a specific standard or value system. And if it's opposing your value system or standard, then it's important to still try to understand that value system and present it in a way that is, again, more objective. I sound like a broken record, but that's the constant trend that I see in these particular type of videos. And it's It's like, come on, y'all. Like, seriously, you can have your home team or, the stadium that you root for or whatever, but let's walk a few, steps or a few miles in the other person's shoes instead of just pointing fingers at it and saying, pyramid scheme, or I hate that color shoe, or I hate that, I hate that shoe. That's all I'm saying, and there you go.
That they definitely meet. Major time spent with group indoctrination and rituals, and or self-indoctrination, including through the internet. Now this one could have...
How's that different from watching YouTube videos from your favorite content creator? Like, you could call anything a cult. That's my point. Like, these definitions apply to so many other things. So, again, personal responsibility, personal accountability, discernment, saving up for stuff, not trying to go into debt. There's a lot of stuff that I get it. Not a lot of people do, or maybe a small percent do all those things, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. That doesn't mean that something is automatically a scam or a pyramid scheme, because most people don't have those skill sets. That's why I create the videos that I have, so people can first have awareness, then have understanding, and then appreciation for a proper way to kind of look at things.
Apply to a lot of different types of ideologies. People can be indoctrinated in lots of different ideologies through the internet. But
oh, there you go. You're mentioning that. There you go. And you're listing some pictures there of that too. That includes, this person and Genetically Modified Skeptic. Okay, here we go.
the key here is which other markers it meets in addition to this one. I would say this could apply to, say, for example, Flat Earth. That doesn't mean that Flat Earthers are cult members necessarily. I have my own thoughts on that, which I won't get into here, but when you add this marker to the other markers Young Living meets, I feel like it's just another nail in the coffin.
You feel like. Feelings are important to note, but feelings aren't facts unless you're specifically talking about a chemical that's released in your brain or body in a certain percentage amount by experiencing something. Then maybe that would be true. But feelings are very different from facts, and there is some room for interpretation, and a lot of things, as he noted, can be considered a cult. Cult has a negative connotation to it, but there's so many things that could be considered a cult. It's just how you look at it. What's your perspective on it? And feeling like something is because it meets more of the markers is very different than looking at everything with that same standard and being able to suspend your own disbelief for a moment.
Like I said, they meet a lot of different markers here. It isn't just 2 or 3 from each category, but I want to point out the most glaringly obvious, the ones that make them a cult. Let's take a look at information control. Sometimes propaganda can make or break a cult. Look at some of their really beautiful, eye-catching propaganda. This is what it's all about. Spend lots of money on propaganda and you'll draw lots of eyes.
How's that different from commercials that you see on TV for consumer products, jewelry, cars, vacations? Oh my goodness, like that applies to any company that spends money on marketing and advertising. And that includes political affiliations too during elections. Oh my goodness, they spend millions, almost and approaching billions of dollars on Super Bowl ads and political ads, and it's insane. Like, again, that's what I'm talking about, looking at both sides of the coin not being done. Okay, here we go though.
Another marker they hit under information control is compartmentalizing information into insider versus outsider doctrines. They demonize anybody who disagrees with them.
They don't want essential oils being sold on the market because it's cutting into their bottom line.
I don't demonize people that disagree with me. I just don't like it when people disagree in a disrespectful way and they don't know how to communicate that and they're not objective. Like this guy, like the reason why I interrupt and pause to talk is because I believe that a proper reasonable response is required and a rebuttal that actually looks at both sides is actually required. And they could have a rebuttal against my rebuttal and boom, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Give me a link to your video or leave it in the comment section and let's go. Let's have a discussion, but don't just get triggered or just automatically overgeneralize and think that everyone's going to demonize you just because you disagree with them or they disagree with you. No, I respect the person that says, you know what, Lance, I don't like what you're saying, I disagree with your saying, but I see where you're coming from. And for me, I respect that person because that shows that they know how to communicate even when they don't like or agree with what I'm saying, And on top of that, they're demonstrating empathy, which is trying to see the other side. I'm not saying they got to agree with the other side. I'm just saying that they try to see the other side, just like I try to see the other side there. And I see everything that they're saying. I see it all, right? That don't mean I agree or like everything they're saying. Certainly not, because I don't like the way they're coming at it. But at the same time, I have a 4 MLM predisposition if it's done in a way that is more focused on teaching, sharing, and leading with powerful products, not just leading with the business opportunity and recruiting and selling, which is what most network marketing individuals do because they don't have the proper mindset or the company culture is just very different. So I totally get where they're coming from, but I don't think overgeneralizations as well as not being able to communicate disagreement or dislike in a respectful way is the solution.
This is a good way to create an extremist. Start small and malign something that's widely distrusted, and then give a pseudoscientific explanation for why you were right to distrust that thing.
They stabbed an antibiotic pen into her muscle several times, and she was on 2 different types of medications.
Give them another option. Our product. They're building a trust relationship. They're feeding off of this person's fears and beliefs. Don't trust chemotherapy. It's dangerous. Don't you see that people get sicker when they go through chemotherapy? They might even get a sham doctor on screen to act like an underdog, saying, "Big science pushed me out because I threatened to expose them." Guy might not even be a doctor, might just be wearing a lab coat. People are ready to buy this stuff, and thanks to human psychology, it's a lot easier to sell than you'd think.
First of all, like I said before, that can apply to anything where there's marketing, advertising, or a documentary, right? You can trust something, but you also need to verify it. And when you verify, you need to look at, are they telling you everything, specifically if it's a study, and who is funding it? And those are parts of the onion that are really hard to peel back. I'm gonna just be honest, and it requires a level of research and work that is probably more fit for college graduate, MBA, or PhD student. But that does not mean that the everyday person who does not have a fancy degree cannot find those answers on their own. And I would add that if somebody wants something bad enough, they can find the answer. My hope is that they just look at both sides of the coin. I know, again, I sound like a broken record, but I feel like it's not being done enough. That's all.
Then they go through a quote-unquote scientific explanation for why chemo is bad for you. And they put their lavender oil up on display, or tea tree oil, or whatever other thing they're peddling. The person being indoctrinated already has that trust relationship after being told that chemo is bad for you. Now they're presented with an alternative. Finally, let me address one more point from the BITE model, under emotion control. They make the person feel like the problems are their own fault, never the leader's or the group's fault.
I don't ever say that, and I know some people have said that, oh, well, you made it seem like it's all Kay's fault. Well, here's what I said. I said that your performance and success within a company is dependent on your skills, your goals, your effort, as well as the quantity and quality of your network and the lead generation system you have. That's the facts. You can verify that, you can not trust that, but that is the facts after I've done a tremendous amount of research that is objective. Those are the things that determine your success within a company. You will hit ceilings within those areas unless you continuously build and grow your network, unless you continuously build deeper and stronger relationships, unless you continue to develop your skill set. And the reason why almost all of that falls on the individual is because the individual is in charge of what they think, say, do, and put on and in their body. Those 5 things are what you have control over, and it's important to control the controllables. Yes, there is a product element. There is product defects. Yes, there is other elements of people who don't make compliant or approved claims. Yes, there's an element of the company or the leaders doing stuff. Yes, there's an element of that. But if we are to look at something objectively, what percent does each one of those make up with regards to a specific outcome? And it will almost always predominantly be the individual, because the individual still needs the discernment to choose on the front end a person, product, and company in order to see if it's a good fit with what they know, like, and trust. And so the individual is going to be predominantly the main reason why something turns out well or doesn't turn out well. If you use a product incorrectly, it's because you didn't understand the benefits and uses properly. If the product was defective or wasn't of quality, then there wasn't enough verification of that on the front end, right? And so, yes, there could be product issues. Yes, there could be company issues with debt or other things, but the discernment and the research skills, as well as personal accountability and personal responsibility on the other end, aren't focused on enough, I would say. It's not just blaming somebody, it's looking at why something was done, and it's almost always has to do with personal responsibility and how it's not being taken.
Often the people who don't succeed will blame the company and accuse it of being a scam.
That's especially true of Young Living because you're selling a fake product.
Okay, so they're kind of saying how, yeah, if you don't have that mindset, that you're going to blame the company. Well, yeah, that's what an unreasonable person does. An unreasonable person takes zero personal responsibility and they blame somebody else or another company for their failures or shortcomings. That's not my approach. Whether it's something I did wrong, incorrectly, upset somebody, hurt somebody, like, I will own my part. Either I allowed something to happen or I actively had my hand on something. But at the same time, just because you feel offended or you feel some type of way or you feel butthurt or you feel something because I said or did something, we also have to look at what was my intent, and at the same time, what are you doing on your end? Are you taking the log out of your own eyes so you can, try to address the speck in someone else's? Or is it just always somebody else's fault? Because if I said something that was legal, that was ethical, that was moral, that was coming from a well-intended spot, and was fact-based, and it was respectful, but you still got triggered or felt some type of way because of it, then it may be on how you interpreted that or received that as well, right? And that goes for me too. If somebody did all that, that's why communication and conflict resolution skills are so important, and why How to Solve Your People Problems, the book will be in the description below, is so absolutely important. I think every person in America and in the world should own that book and at least read it once through and try to apply one principle from each chapter. That's like my call to action of this video. I don't even forget about the Young Living and Genetically Modified Skeptic and the dude that's talking. Like, if you just got that book and read it all the way through and tried to apply at least one thing from each chapter, you would be in a better spot than you are today. And if you're not, I would love to hear that, because I don't give guarantees, but I almost guarantee that you will be in a better spot mentally, physically, and certainly from a conflict resolution standpoint.
People are inevitably going to have a hard time selling this stuff. In an effort to sell others on essential oils and essential oils products, they have to perpetuate the propaganda themselves. The victim becomes the victimizer. They bought into these grandiose claims, and now they're spreading them as though they're fact.
They're not grandiose claims if they are fact-based and you are using compliant terminology based on what the companies have produced publicly. So, and you only have a victim mentality if you don't have a victor mentality. So, and that comes down to, again, discernment and, personal development and whatnot. So, I think he's, making a lot of overgeneralizations, because I get it. It's easier to put something in a box than it is to look at things from a case by case or person by person or product by product or company by company basis. I get it. I understand that, but that doesn't mean that it's fully accurate.
Giving them to friends and family, people who trust them, and when it doesn't work, it's programmed into them to blame themselves for the failures, never the leader. We have a solid product here. We just have to get it out to people.
So when something doesn't work or somebody has a negative experience, I ask them, what was the frequency, what was the quantity used, how was it used exactly? I try to understand, but it's also important to understand that people have different body types, height, weight, gender, predispositions, things that they're eating, drinking, stress levels, sleep levels. I mean, there could be a lot of, chemical or hormonal imbalances. There could be a lot going on with somebody, and I don't have all the answers, and I'm not even going to pretend to. And so if something doesn't work, it just didn't work. Would I love to have the exact answer why? Well, maybe if your body, had a way of communicating that through an instant blood sample analysis, through, looking at the cells and the DNA and all, okay, great. I would love to have that and have an answer. But until then, it didn't work. Let's see if something else can work. Let's look at your diet, what you're eating, your lifestyle, what your sleep levels are, your stress levels are, the level of toxicity or synthetic products you're using. Let's look at, a lot of stuff. I mean, and again, that's more work than most people want to do. They're like, just let me put it in a box. It didn't work. It's a pyramid scheme. It's a MLM scam. I just want to put it in a box. It's like, well, the only thing you should be putting in a box is a Christmas gift to give somebody because they, you think they would benefit from it. You shouldn't be putting a person, product, or company in a box, okay? Let's just keep it 100.
If you can't manage to spread something that cures almost everything, then it's your fault, not the leaders. So my final determination after talking with somebody who is closely associated with the group, after reviewing their extreme nature and context, and after looking at the new, updated bite model, I'm gonna have to call it. It's a cult. Thanks for having me on. Glad.
Yeah, and so is almost everything else that a person is obsessed or has high devotion to with regards to another person, idea, object, movement, or work. So again, cult is being used in a negative manner with it. And just because you put it in a box of a cult, okay, how many other things could fit in that box? That's my point. And does that automatically mean the box is bad? Right? I mean, you have to have, again, discernment. So here we go.
To be here. Now I need to talk you into coming on my channel.
Thanks, Telltale. So, for good reason, I'm now incredibly distant from Young Living, and I plan to keep it that way. Upon realizing that it's a cult, I was relieved that I got away before it was too late for me, but I also became incredibly worried about everyone I know who's still in it. I don't know if they'll ever get out, even if it seriously hurts them.
Well, you have to understand that if somebody has an emotional and or financial attachment to something, it becomes extremely difficult to leave anything, whether that be a marriage, a relationship, a car, a house, student loan debt, food. It don't matter. Your favorite clothing item, jewelry, a hairstyle, let's go. I don't have hair, obviously, but you know what I'm saying? Emotional attachment and financial attachment is not to be underestimated, and it's very hard, and the more time you also invest, it makes it even more hard. So time, money, and emotionals or emotions, not to be underestimated. So trying to quote unquote get people out is not the solution. The solution is to look at both sides of the coin and present both sides of the story, and basically help people come to their own conclusions, and hopefully it's an accurate conclusion because you've presented enough fact-based information, i.e. pros and cons in even amounts from both sides of the coin. That is the solution, because it's up to the individual to come to their own conclusion, not you, not me, not Telltale or whoever. It don't matter. Not your mama, not your daddy, your husband, your wife, your kids, your sister, your brother. It ain't up to them. It's up to you, because you are in control of what you think, what you say, what you do, what you put on your body, and what you put in your body. You are in control. And it's important to control the controllables. And that's about it. Everything else you can influence, but you can't control without a shadow of a doubt. So there we go. That's my final piece. Let's see what his final piece is, because this video is coming to an end.
But if speaking out like I do prevents even one person from joining the cult I almost joined, it'll be worth it. Thanks for watching. I've been Drew of Genetically Modified
Well,
Skeptic.
as you can see, a lot was said from not only Drew, but from another channel as well. And I think there's, so much to be said. A lot has already been said, so I'm not going to rehash anything or beat a dead horse. The only thing I would encourage you to do, he says, stay skeptic at the end of his videos. And I will just say, stay reasonable and try to be objective, whether you have a home team or you're an anti-MLM or for MLM approach, or you're just on the fence, outside looking in. I think it's so important that we just try to look at both sides and come to accurate conclusions, and that is going to be the best way to make sure that we are basically trying to be reasonable, right? There's a lot of information out there, and it's so important that we kind of look at things with that lens. Alright, well that concludes today's video for today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button if you did. Hit subscribe for future video updates if you haven't already done so. And make sure to check out the links in the description below. Lots of resources down there for you to continue to get your learn on. And I will see you in the next video.